morning and welcome to The Edge. Today is October 23rd and I am your guest, Roma Richardson. I'm filling in for Devon Cornelius. Today we have an exciting conversation about financial literacy, financial well-being with a guest whom I'll ask to introduce himself in a bit. But if we can just do a short break and then come back and get into this morning's discussion, we'll do that. So stay tuned.
The competition is heating up on ZIZ Petition Superstar 2025. One contestant has been eliminated from Group 1. And now, the remaining stars are ready to shine even brighter. This Thursday night, the stage belongs to Vinette Richardson, Ikwanje Bradley, Nikita Sage, and Cheslin Ward. 4 voices, 1 dream, and only one can move closer to becoming the next ZIZ Petition Superstar. Feel the energy, the emotion, and the excitement live this Thursday at 8 in the evening on ZIZ TV Channel 5, ZIZ social media platforms, and online at www.zizonline.com. ZIZ Petition Superstar 2025. The stage is set. The stars are ready. Are you?
Welcome back to The Edge. I'm your host, Roma Richardson, and I'm filling in for Devon Cornelius. This morning, we're going to have a conversation about financial literacy, and I'm so excited, eager to introduce my guest. I asked my guest to introduce himself. Dr. Terrence Martin, please share a little bit about yourself, about your experience thus far, and let the audience know a bit about what we'll be talking about this morning.
Good morning, Ms. Richardson, and thanks for having me. Thanks to the listening audience today, and I hope it's a beautiful day there in St. Kitts. I'm surprised. You should be able to introduce me, Roma. You know me. You've known me for 30 years.
You call me Miss Richardson. So
well, I mean,
we think otherwise.
Well, professionally, I'm an associate professor of financial planning and director of the Center of Excellence in Financial Services at the Winston-Salem State University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Beyond that, I've done a lot of work on financial education in the region, being recognized back in 2018 by the OECS for that work. I've worked with the governments of Grenada, even right there in St. Kitts, and I've done and hosted workshops. Most recently in St. Kitts, we did an Invest and SIP workshop back in May. Had over 60 participants, partnered with First Federal, and we are now planning for number 2, Invest and SIP 2 in 2026, which, it's going to go a bit further and will open up participants to way more information. But as you know, it's Financial Information Month in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, and it was a great time for me to launch these children's books, which I've published over a year ago and just never said anything about it, right?
Okay.
The timing just wasn't right. And I personally didn't have the time that it takes to promote the books. But being Financial Information Month, I reached out to St. Kitts Credit Union. And today, probably right now as we're having this interview, they're distributing the books to every primary school in the Federation, right? Not just in St. Kitts. We're also doing Nevis, and we're doing both private and public schools. It's a 3-book set that we given to each school. The idea is simply children teaching children about money,
How did you come up with the idea for children, teaching children? I know I saw one of your clips with the credit union talking about your background and your bringing, the kind of lessons that you receive, I believe you said, from your grandmother, and the fact that you realize many of your peers didn't have access to the same kind of information. Tell me about what that relationship was like with your grandmother. What was the content of those conversations that kind of informed where you are now?
The reality of the situation is most times we don't realize what's in front of us, especially when it comes to our family members. We see them as grandparents, our parents, our brothers and sisters, but not really looking at who they are as individuals. And for many years, I saw my grandmother as someone that farmed, she sold in the market, she taught Sunday school, she volunteered in church. What I didn't realize at that young age, though, that my grandmother was more than that. It's almost shameful to say it. I had an MBA before I stopped and reflected on what she really was doing and the lessons she really was teaching. If we were to think about it, let's look at her as a farmer. She was not only farming where she was growing and selling her produce in the market. I didn't realize or connected the dots that she was also selling for other farmers. So my grandmother was getting commission. She was selling on consignment. Right? She was creating a distribution channel for people that didn't have the time or didn't want to just go and sell in a public market on a weekend. Right? Then when you look at the Sunday school perspective, she was encouraging savings on the weekend. So all the children that came, they came with their 25 cents, their dollar, their $5 or whatever. And every week she would take that money, go to the credit union, ironically saying it's credit union, to do this. And she, at the end of the year, she's going to look at all the interest that she got. And she's divvying up this interest amongst all of her accounts. Well, that's a weighted average calculation. And my grandmother didn't finish primary school. So the fact that she was doing those things and looking in unbanked areas and finding ways to increase bankability of young people, I think that was tremendous. And she did that for many, many decades in the Ponds Pasture, Newtown area.
Okay. So you're growing up with your grandmother who had a mind like that, which is, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with somebody about an unrelated subject, but it was essentially how people do things, practice things, sometimes make a lifestyle out of things that they don't necessarily have the language for, that isn't necessarily something that you would read about in academia, in books, or in anything like that, but can talk to you about it in other ways, in other language, and can break down, the most complex of topics, and make what they're doing and their intentions plain. So I think it's interesting how that you have had that kind of lifelong learning instilled in you. Is that something that you're attempting to do with these books, to get people, children especially, to build a culture of saving, of financial literacy?
Yes. In short, yes. But within the backdrop of the fact that I again, even though I was getting these lessons, I didn't realize I was getting these lessons.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, and to your point, a lot of people have other experiences. For example, let's say if you grew up in a household where the mother was an extreme saver, the father was a spender, vice versa, that comes with socialization, right? So, like, to your point, we're not able to explain what we're doing, like that relationship, which would be an accountant and a spender type of model, if we were to look at it from a consumer perspective. But, and we can't maybe articulate it, but when you're talking it out, then we could see that, yes, you have knowledge and you have understanding. Like, for example, you would hear a husband say, I remember seeing this reel online where this British parliamentarian actually said his wife's credit card was stolen, but he didn't close the credit card because the thief was spending less than his wife. Right, that's a reality of that's sort of a mechanism put in place to prevent his wife actually spending more money, right? In his mind, so that's definitely part of it. So the reason behind the books as well, the governor of the central bank came out and said that virtually across the region, from the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, I think that's Anguilla down, is BVI, the BVI use EC dollars? I don't know.
I think.
I'm not sure. Okay, but in the among the ECCU, we are financially illiterate. That's literally was the conclusion. The conclusion was that we're financially illiterate, with Anguilla being the most financially literate. I think St. Vincent being the least financially literate, and St. Kitts Nevis somewhere in the middle of the pack. I don't know how they conducted the survey. I don't know the methodology behind it, but that was the conclusion. So within that backdrop, then you realize, okay, we need to do more. Now, people say, let's start from a young age, right? Let's start from a young age. And as an academic, my research has actually shown me that maybe high schools is not the best place to teach financial literacy, right? And I know this is in direct conflict to a program like Aspire that we have there, but it's also in conflict to some of the work that I do as well. But when you think about it, financial literacy is not just knowledge, it's the application of knowledge. So the idea behind these books is not to think like, hey, a child is going to be financially savvy at 8 or 9, but it's to at least start a bigger conversation. So we could change the lens in which we view certain things, and the lens and way we approach certain things. You know, that's why the topics in the books, especially the first one, it was very intentional, because it started to get into the whole concept of money psychology, money personality, because every single one of your listeners right now got their view or relationship with money from either observing in the household or being in the community. So it's starting to create the awareness in things that could be read at night in books. Or, you know, especially now in this economy that we have a lot of young people that would be selling like lemonade and little cakes and stuff. That's entrepreneurship. Let's call it what it is. Let's give it a name. So in 10 years, 15 years, then that becomes a full-fledged business, or at least the participant or the child doing this activity gets an understanding of what it is to be an entrepreneur. So it's not necessarily on the application side, but it's to create awareness. And even while reading these topics, I dare say the parents will benefit as well.
You talked about money personality. Can you share a bit more about that? Of course, without going too much into the book, but you could, give us some a sneak peek, I suppose, of what the book includes when it comes to money personalities and how those things are developed, and maybe even from tell us how young, people start developing those money personalities.
I honestly believe you start getting shaped at an impressionable age, and once you could remember. You start to observe. We start to mimic what we see, right? I'll use me as a test case. So my grandmother, so she's sensitized. That was not necessarily the experience I had in my home, in my circles. I saw some of my friends' parents. They spent a lot, right? They demonstrated wealth and it was about recognition in some cases. Well, what that means, that's a money personality. Right? I have money, I'm going to spend, but I'm spending money on things so that people know I have money. I also had the contrasting view of over-saving. You know, there's a reason why some people don't throw out like butter kits and we use them for water to make ice. That's literally logical, right? It's almost like a very light version of hoarding. But that's because for us, there's a scarcity complex because money is scarce. So we hold on. Money represents safety for us, right? So that's another money personality. Other people use their money and take so much risk that would make us sweat and be uncomfortable at night. That's entrepreneurship, right? If you look at it from that perspective. So all of these different things are our money personality together. And there was some research. I don't know if you're familiar with the marshmallow experiment, Roma. No, it was done, I think it was either Stanford or Harvard, and it was done in the 50s, 60s. And what they did, they took a bunch of 4-year-olds and put them in a room. And they gave them one marshmallow. And they said, if you waited for 15 minutes, you'll get a second one. They observed the children from behind, some glass, some barrier. And what they noticed is that some kids waited, Others didn't wait, right? Those who waited got 2 marshmallows. They then tracked those, they were 4 years old when they did this experiment. They tracked those children until they were 18. And what they observed, mind you, this is association, not necessarily causation, but what they observed is through the demonstration of minimizing instant gratification, delaying gratification. So by waiting for that second marshmallow, the students, the children that waited, they were more decisive. They were doing better in life. They were just making better decisions overall. And what that suggests to us is personality starts to form from a very young age. And we could make the extension that our money personality is the exact same way. I remember, and I didn't realize growing up, I was making Christmas cards, greeting cards during Valentine's Day. I had male friends. I would write poems for their little girlfriends and stuff, and I was selling that. Well, I was being socialized by my grandmother because she was the entrepreneur in my family. She was the one that was raising me. So I do think we're shaped from a very, very, very early age.
Okay, so while you were talking, I was thinking about some of the popular things that we say, especially to children, like you're going to the supermarket, with your mother, you're walking down the road, you're walking past KFC, Ready Fry, wherever it is, Uncle T's, and then you're like, Mommy, I could get, Daddy, I could get, and then they say, yeah, money don't grow on tree, make a money, all these things. How does that, shape... where does that fit into the money personalities, and how does that shape, the relationship with money?
Think of it this way. I'll use myself as a test case. I heard that a lot.
Yeah.
Never, I ain't got money to go to this workshop. I remember I used to love playing pan. It was $60. Didn't have money to play pan, right? And as a child, you don't get what you want. You get a little angry and testy and stuff. So what that did for me is because I didn't get a lot of the things that I wanted as a child, when I became an adult and was put in a position to get them, I went out and just bought them. Not because I needed it, because now I didn't have a barrier or anybody telling me no. So that's how we affect children at a young age. When we don't have these conversations, you're literally then either building some sort of resentment in that child or limiting that child's ability in some way because you're not explaining anything. Money don't grow on tree, duh, right? But then I could Google, children nowadays. Let me Google money tree, and they're gonna find the money tree, right? There's literally a tree called a money tree.
Yeah.
So instead of being like that, why not just have the conversation? What we did with our daughter, she is 15 tomorrow, so happy early birthday to my beautiful little girl, Naya. She's going to be 15. But what we did with her at 7, she had her own debit card. At 7, she started to make decisions of wants versus needs. We didn't prevent her from getting anything, but we wanted to drive home a message that we didn't get in a very clear way. Here is your debit card. We're going to buy all your essentials. But if we're walking in that store, like that example that you gave, and you want this piece of candy, or you want this toy, you have a decision that when you reach to that register, right, is this really something that you want to spend? Because the impact is your bank account is going to be lower. We have those conversations. Every year, she knows how much money goes into her college account. She knows what the interest grows. If the economy is bad and the stock market doesn't well, she understands that it falls. Mm-hmm. And every single time she comes to me with an outlandish request, like, Daddy, last year for her birthday, I want $1,000. And I said to her, I'll give you the $1,000. In fact, I'll give you $5,000, but I will take your college fund with it. And then she quickly then says, oh, no. I'm not stupid. I understand. I no longer need that. I'm good. I just wanted to know what you would say. Mm-hmm. That's how we implement it. We treat the children, because the knowledge that we have now from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it wasn't our knowledge 30 years ago. Everything is at their fingertips. Every single child has a tablet. Every single child can browse the web, right? And even though we try to use kids apps, we've already seen through sites like Roblox and YouTube Kids, that doesn't really limit them getting on the broader web.
Right, because they do find a way to find your card.
Exactly.
And buy all kinds of
ridiculous things.
All kinds of things.
Thousands of dollars.
Right. So it's better, as you said, to have a conversation with them as opposed to
Let's talk about money.
Yeah, assuming it won't happen, or assuming that the children aren't smart enough to understand, how to do different things like that. Okay, so that's money, personality. What about the second book? What does the second book get into?
Well, that wasn't the title of the book. That's just one of the themes across.
No. So, I mean, that's like one of the
some other topics.
yeah.
we talk about entrepreneurship, right? In one of the books, they have like they go through these wishes or ideas of what one wants to be like. They want to make jewelry, so they start as a child, start selling jewelry, maybe selling on a beach, etc. You know what's crazy? I travel a lot, and in Africa and so in like Tanzania, Nigeria, Kenya, whatever, most African countries, you could pick anyone. Places like Mexico, you actually find children on the road selling.
Yeah.
Right. It's not,
Jamaica,
we want them to be in school, but our reality is a lot of
Yeah.
them have to go out and support their families. Right. So it's exposed. So we're talking in these books about entrepreneurship. We talk about opening a savings account. We talk about how you could work together as a team, because something we have as Black people, we tend to think that we must do business in silos, right? As solo individuals, we must be a solo proprietor. But then if you look into other cultures, the Indian culture, the Asian culture, they actually have a lot more teamwork.
Yeah.
So here we're talking about them working together to come up with solutions for their own problems that they may be having.
Okay. So do your books include activities and so on?
This is just a children's book. This is meant to look like a storybook, something you do at night, or you read around the table as a family and talk about the themes. I know the people that have been using it, because I tested it in a preschool, I tested it in an elementary school, and it's been well received, because it then opens up topics, right? And then that parent can use a situation that they have or they may be having with their child and use that as an example to explain things.
Okay. And what about the third book? Is it? Yeah. You could tell me about the third book, and then tell me about how the books relate to each other. Are you meant to buy them? As a series, one after the other? Is there a way that you read them? Yeah.
So the big thing about the third book was the concept of credit, borrowing, right? Either borrowing from a friend, borrowing from a family member, maybe borrowing from a bank, using that money in a productive way, and then getting it and paying back that money, right? So there's an element of trust. There's a theme of trust and friendship and camaraderie. And how the books relate, the first book is called Treasure Trails. That's what starts this adventure. That's based on St. Kitts. That's where it starts, right? The next book is Mystery of the Mind. This is where we get deeper into the money psychology. And then the last and final book focuses on, it's based in St. Lucia. So Mystery of the Mind is in Antigua. So the idea here is like, you want me to get into the essence of the books? Or
sure, absolutely. As much as you're open to sharing without sharing too much.
So in Treasure Trails, as an example, as I said, it's set in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I tried to capture Nevis as well. So like there's a Queen City Bank in there, which could possibly represent like Bank of Nevis or something like that, right? So here we have three friends, Kira, Jaden, and Leo, and they discover an old treasure map. But instead of embarking on a journey to understand, they embark on a journey to understand the value of money, right? So instead of trade, what is the real treasure? Is the treasure like this fictitious pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or is the treasure knowledge that you could then make actionable? So they are guided by this elder in the community named Mr. Turtley, because a wise old farmer business owner. In this book specifically, they learn about budgeting, saving, introduced to investing, while experiencing the practicalities of managing money through starting things like a lemonade stand and opening their own bank accounts. So it's a short book, but there's so much that is happening that takes you on this journey with these three friends. The story emphasizes the importance of financial literacy and responsible money management, leaving the friends with valuable lessons that will shape their future financial decisions. That's the first one. So they're coming together They find this map. Instead of going on this scavenger hunt trying to find this treasure, you know, they were interceded by Mr. Turtley, who told them that the real treasure is in knowledge. The real treasure is financial knowledge, and navigating and applying that financial knowledge, growing your financial literacy. And then they did that by creating a lemonade stand, which they sold in the community. They did their numbers. They went to the market. I actually have a diagram in here of our public market.
Sure.
And I spent a lot of time at the public market. I don't know if you won't be able to see that, but this is literally a depiction of our public market.
Kind of, yeah.
Right? And I spent a lot of time in the public market growing up. And then from there, they open their bank accounts. They get an idea like a junior savers account. You know, back in the day, I had one as a child.
Yeah.
And I think they still have those as well. So it's around that. So no, imagine a child, you're in a school, and I think they do this banking in school thing, and you don't do that, and you say, "Hey, mom, like, I don't have a bank account. Do I bank in school?" That's how you start conversation, because then children will have curiosity. Yeah. So that's book one, and in book two, we have a situation where Jaden, one of the kids, they leave St. Kitts and Nevis and they go to, you know, summer vacation. You go to Antigua, you go to visit family. And one day they're going to the beach, right? And on the beach, he meets, what do you call it? Ethan, Maya, Zoe. They're on the beach playing. So now you have these 4 children playing together. And what we really start to get into here is about smart financial goals. Right? Hey, what do you want to do? And they start to push out all these dreams. And here's Jaden saying, hey, no, we have to look within this framework of smart goals, smart planning, start to frame the conversation a little bit better. Right? And through their journey, they learn valuable insights about, obviously, how to manage their emotions when it comes to financial decision making and topics like that. And similarly, the final book takes one of these children that was there. Now, Maya learned a lot. She's going off to camp in St. Lucia with the Pathfinders group. She's older now. She's a lot more wiser. And there, she meets up with some friends on camp. And then the story centers around her teaching her friends about money management, particularly the concepts of borrowing and credit, and distinguishing between wants versus needs. So that's the idea there. Children teaching children, they learn something, we're curious, we're traveling throughout the region on a regular basis, and then we're sharing the knowledge that we have. That's the idea.
Okay. I think that's a good, what's the word? Trajectory, a good progression for the books and in expanding the knowledge of children. We are about halfway through our conversation-ish. So we're going to take a short break here, come back and continue talking about Financial Literacy Month and in particular these 3 books by Dr. Terence Martin. So stay tuned.
Dental Beginnings, where it all begins with your smile, we provide quality dental care, catering to the needs of the whole family, where gentleness is our specialty and attention to detail is paramount. We offer cleanings, fillings, crown and bridge, root canals, extractions, digital x-rays, and sealants. Dental Beginnings, located at Victoria Road, Bassier, St. Kitts. Call us at 869-668-1955 or 869-465-1951. Email us at dentalbeginnings@gmail.com or visit our Facebook page. Dental Beginnings. It all begins with a smile.
For life's finest moments, celebrate them with Skol Premium Lager. Pure malt, pure class, pure perfection. Skol, class and perfection in a bottle.
The second leg of the National Budget Consultations 2025 is here. This is your chance to speak up, share your ideas, and help shape our nation's future. Join us under the theme, Turning Conversations into Action, Building our Sustainable Island State Together. It is all happening at the Anglican Church Hall in Sandy Point on Thursday, October 23rd at 6 p.m. sharp. All neighboring communities are invited. Come lend your voice and be part of building a stronger, more sustainable St. Kitts and Nevis. The National Budget Consultations 2025, your voice, your vision, our future.
The competition is heating up on ZIZ Petition Superstar 2025. One contestant has been eliminated from Group 1. And now, the remaining stars are ready to shine even brighter. This Thursday night, the stage belongs to Vinette Richardson, Ikwanje Bradley, Nikita Sage, and Cheslin Ward. 4 voices, 1 dream, and only one can move closer to becoming the next ZIZ Petition Superstar. Feel the energy, the emotion, and the excitement live this Thursday at 8 in the evening on ZIZ TV Channel 5, ZIZ social media platforms, and online at www.ZIZ.
We're back. You're tuned into The Edge on ZIZ Radio on Facebook, YouTube, and that's it. We're having this conversation today with Dr. Terrence Martin. We're talking about financial literacy and the lessons that he's hoping to impart through a set of children's books. The children's books are The Treasure Trails, The Money Adventure, The Promise of the Pitons, Mystery of the Mind, The Smart Money Quest. I think Mystery of the Mind is the middle one, right?
Right, yeah, that's the second book.
Okay,
yeah.
and the last one is The Promise of the Piton.
Yeah, and you know, the idea, Roma, is to have more. I actually launched these last year on my birthday. It was almost like, hey, 40 years old, get this off your to-do list. You've been saying you're going to do this for years. And but this year, you know, I just haven't had the time to do any sort of promotion on it. But I think it's extremely important to get them out. So like I said, right now, St. Kitts Credit Union should be doing distributions to every school today.
Are you planning to... I'm guessing we're doing this interview online because you are not in St. Kitts right now. But
I'm
you
not in
come
St.
to
Kitts
St.
right
Kitts
now.
often. Are you planning to come to...
Well, you're putting my business out there like that.
in-person readings? Well, everybody know you'll be here.
You know, that would honestly be the goal. Maybe do some readings, maybe set up something at like
The
the
library.
library or partner with like a church or something, or go to my alma mater, which is Newtown Primary, Tucker Clark, the best primary school in the Federation. Do something there with the children, maybe do some sort of presentations. It would be fun. You know, I haven't done a school visit in St. Kitts and Nevis. I've done them in, I think I did in Grenada for sure. I know I've done in Antigua, I think, as well. But it would be really good to come and interact with children there. Lately, when I'm in St. Kitts, I'm in for very specific reasons. I'm in and then I'm out. But yeah, that's definitely something I would love to do, to promote them more, because that's what we need, right? We need awareness. So I'm not doing this to make money. I think Amazon, I think I make like 10 cents a book or something like that. So it's definitely it's not going to get me rich, right? But for me, I care more about just starting these conversations early, because the reality is, you know, like the report says, we are financially illiterate as a region. And financial illiteracy costs this region, not the governments, but the people, billions of dollars a year. Think about bad, high-cost loans, right? The people that use payday companies, not because and in many cases, they have to, right? Because they just do not have the money, right, to match their consumption. So we want to start these conversations early to help to navigate, because in many cases, a slight difference, one different decision looking at the opportunity cost of our decision making could change that trajectory big time.
I want to talk a little bit about why you set the story in Caribbean, in the Caribbean, and in Caribbean countries specifically. I know we talked about, the OECS region. We're talking about like the currency that we use and the common issues that we face. But the books are available globally, right? You said they're available on Amazon, so anybody can pick them up and access it. But why was it important for you to root those books in?
It's me. It's me. I'm a Caribbean national, right? There are not a lot of stories that tell our perspective.
Right.
There are not a lot of stories that are based on our settings. The Caribbean is loved and revered by millions. You have children that come on vacation. Many children, isn't the world's largest cruise ship in port now? How many coming off our children, right? So now if it's on Amazon and, I actually start to promote these books and be like, hey, we went to St. Kitts, right? Or we went to Antigua, we went to St. Lucia. These are major cruise ports. Mm-hmm. So in terms of global appeal, I definitely think that it's there. And I'm a Caribbean national. And the adult in book one, technically, I wanted to sort of frame off of my grandmother without being very hard on the nose. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of it. And I'm contrasting that to the US, where there are a lot of content up here that's for kids. Yeah. Right? There are a lot of content focused, but we don't have anything in the region that's for us or by us. So here we are.
And I think added to that is also a lot of the financial advice that we do receive, the financial books that we do read. I was talking to somebody about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and others yesterday that are not, set in the Caribbean and don't account for the realities in the region, the ways that we spend monies, the different money systems that we have here. Because, for example, and I'm not sure, I haven't gotten my hand on the books yet, but Susu's, partner hands, and so on are also big practices, indigenous practices. Here, do you talk about partner hands at all?
Not in this book. I don't think that's age appropriate. I do have a book that's focused on teens and young adults, where we'll bring up that topic, because the partner hands and the Susus have lost their traditional placement, the relevance and need. Before you did these things, purpose. They've lost their purpose, because before we didn't have access to financial institutions. We didn't have access to banks. We didn't have access to loans. That was the whole point. Now, imagine you're giving somebody you don't know, and this happens so often because without fail, I'm sure you see it. Every year, every couple of months, people are complaining somebody didn't pay their partner hand. If you contrast this with what's happening on the continent of Africa, you had, I think there were some Ghanaians or maybe Nigerians, some people from the continent that they were based in the UK at the time, and they created a financial company around the Susu model, right? And so, for example, no, we don't have to worry about somebody missing their payment because we have some sort of insurance here as a hedge against the risk of them losing money. We haven't had that innovation in the Caribbean, right? So we're still very much heavy. Oh, I'm going to trust you and give you $1,000, right? So you have 12 people in it. That's $12,000 a month. And then that one person misses because let's say you're in January, right? You don't get your 12,000. And you say, well, to hell with this. What are they going to do? Sue me?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we lost him. Volume. So hold on, Terrence. Hold on. Pause. Just a second. We're working on a slight technical issue here. Yeah, so we lost you for a bit. I can see you. I just can't hear you. So we're going to work that out. And then... okay, so this technical issue maybe might last a little bit longer than planned. Do you want to take a short break? Or we just keep talking? So we're talking about financial literacy through the use of children's books and targeting primary schoolers in particular to help to get that knowledge to take root from young ages. We have been sharing about how our ideas about money are shaped from very young, are influenced by the older people around us, by the people in our communities, sometimes by our older peers, siblings. Anyone can really shape our views, our ideas, our thoughts about money, and those thoughts and behaviors and practices follow us through our lives. So with the intervention of these 3 children's books, we are hoping to change the path of many children to inspire financial responsibility and ultimately financial literacy. So that is what we are talking about today on The Edge. I think that we would want to start wrapping up at this time. Can I hear Terrence? No? Terrence?
Hi.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
So we're back.
All right. Yeah, we're back. We're back like we never left. We did leave for a while. So, yeah, maybe you can just share what you were talking about just now.
No, I was just saying that the concept of SUSU and the partner hands have lost its purpose,
Yes.
and the difference in the continent versus in the region, where the region we're still very much doing it the old way, and we're seeing a lot of people being taken advantage of and not getting their partner hands. And it's an annual thing. Like, I think literally it should just be banned. I think you shouldn't do it. Right. Anybody right now in a partner hand, make this your last. It's no benefit. You could get the same thing from a bank right now. Yes, the bank has interest. I get that. But what is a 10% interest versus you possibly never getting your $12,000 back?
Yeah, I also heard that there are some partner hands where the person, I guess, I don't know what you call it, the main partner, the person who holds the money, if you don't collect your hand when you're supposed to, they charge you a fee.
Yeah, they charge you late fees and those things.
It's also, you run from banks. Like the bank. You run from banks to kind of encounter the same things or similar things that you.
But also, too, they incur an administration fee for setting up the whole thing, just like a bank.
So and all of those, I think, are part of the money messages that we receive, because there are people who, who have been doing partner hands for generations. That is the way that they raise funds, that they get funds, and so on. But of course, that wasn't our conversation.
It ties perfectly into the books, because that's why I introduced in the first book them going and getting a bank account. So we get familiarization with those financial intermediaries. Some people hate banks because banks seem like, not when you get past the teller to the personal loans, some people get intimidated.
Yeah.
Either because, like you said earlier, we don't know the jargon, we don't know the language, we're unsure. And in many cases, when there's information asymmetry between two parties, the one with the knowledge is going to always win. Right? So I have seen and heard a lot of things where some institutions extract financial rents from their customers just because they can. And who's policing them? Because the people that could police them also don't even know. So how can you police somebody when you don't have the awareness to do it as well?
So sorry, go ahead.
One of the things I think is really important, especially, and I commend our government for pushing things like Aspire, but you have to be very careful with who delivers this knowledge, because they can do more harm than they could do good. And I will say this, and I'll put this out there as a controversial statement. The $500 that's sitting in cash, that's a big mistake. Cash has a cost. It's called inflation. So those accounts that opened last year are worth less this year. You're not helping. The goal of Aspire is to build over time. Have money sitting in cash, that's a very bad decision on behalf of organizers.
Okay. So I just want to invite you to, share any final words. I'm taking from the conversation to, in the last couple points that you made, that part of financial literacy too is not just preparing you to manage money, but preparing you to have conversations around money with money management agencies, so that you are equipped and confident to have conversations, and nobody could run circles around you and things like that. But any final words that you want to share about your
financial inclusion? Yeah, the goal again is to raise up a generation that understands and demands more from financial institutions. Financial inclusion means going beyond the bank account. So we need our financial institutions to do more. So when credit unions like St. Kitts Credit Union, or one of my other partners, First Federal Credit Union, when they come on board and support these initiatives that their members can benefit from, that's how our community grows. And we're going to do more. We have a lot more to roll out up in this upcoming year. Besides the books, we're going to have maybe another 2 books added to the 5-book series. We're going to come out with the teen book in the next 12 months, teen to young adult. But what I'm most excited about is launching an investment competition. And I hope I could get that off in like around March or April to coincide with the annual financial literacy month, and just go from there. Because we right there in St. Kitts, everybody listening to me, you can open an investment account in the United States right now. Donald Trump is doing a bunch of dumb things. The market is suppressed. You can get in low, you can ride the wave up. I remember doing a Facebook post in April with the same thing, and between April and now the market ran up 30%. The banks in St. Kitts are giving you 2? It would have taken you 15 years to make that money had you just listened to me in April when I told you how to invest. And how do you open an account? You could get that done within a week, right? So there's a lot of information there. We want to start conversations early. Financial inclusion has to be about it. And honestly, if we don't plan for our money will plan for us. Money has a purpose. Money is just not that bill in your pocket. Money is a tool, right? So yeah, and the reason why I talk about credit, because in the Black community we view credit as a bad thing.
Yeah.
But there's no wealthy person in the world that is not in debt.
Clock it. That's what the young people to do. Yeah,
that's what the clock is.
Great way to end. Thank you so much for joining us for the conversation. Thank you so much to our listeners for joining us for another episode of The Edge. I hope that people, feel more inspired to continue to start their financial literacy journey, and folks can pick up copies of your books on Amazon, you said. And if you're a young
and I need to
person
reach
in
out to a couple local bookstores
Yeah.
to see if we can get them in.
And if you're a young person in school, those should be coming in hand right now or in hand already. So I hope to hear of
so
many
you could
young
go to your
people.
library
Yeah.
and get them.
Yeah, I hope to hear of many children, inspiring their parents to improve some of the ways that we think about money. Thank you again, Dr. Martin Terrence, for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you, Roma, and to your listening audience, have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thank you. All right, take care. That was The Edge.